A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. Random House Audio presents Star Wars, Labyrinth of Evil by James Luceno. Read for you by Jonathan Davis. Darkness was encroaching on Cato Neimoidia's western hemisphere, though exchanges of coherent light high above the beleaguered world ripped looming night to shreds. Well under the fractured sky, in an orchard of Manax trees that studded the lower ramparts of Viceroy Gunray's majestic redoubt, companies of clone troopers and battle droids were slaughtering one another with bloodless precision. A flashing fan of blue energy lit the undersides of a cluster of trees, the lightsaber of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Attacked by 2 sentry droids, Obi-Wan stood his ground, twisting his upraised blade right and left to swat blaster bolts back at his enemies. Caught midsection by their own salvos, both droids came apart with a scattering of alloy limbs. Tumbling under the segmented thorax of a Neimoidian harvester beetle, Obi-Wan sprang to his feet and raced forward. Explosive light shunted from the Citadel's deflector shield dappled the loamy ground between the trees. Oblivious to the chaos occurring in their midst, columns of the 5-meter-long harvesters continued their stalwart march toward a mound that supported the fortress. From off to Obi-Wan's left came a sudden click of servos. To his right, a hushed cry of warning. "Down, Master!" He dropped into a crouch even before Anakin's lips formed the final word. A blur of thrumming blue energy sizzled through the humid air, followed by a sharp smell of cauterized circuitry, the tang of ozone. A blaster discharged into soft soil. Then the stalked, elongated head of a battle droid struck the ground not a meter from Obi-Wan's feet. "You nearly took my head off." Anakin held his blade to one side. In the strobing light of battle, his blue eyes shone with wry amusement. "Sorry, Master, but your head was where my lightsaber needed to go. I suppose I should be grateful your lightsaber needed to go there, rather than desired to." Obi-Wan swept his lightsaber in a flourishing pass, nodding up the alley of Manax trees. "After you." They resumed their charge, moving with the supernatural speed and grace afforded by the Force. They jinked right, somersaulting under the wide bodies of 2 harvester beetles. They emerged from the tree line at the shore of a broad irrigation canal, fed by a lake that delimited the Neimoidian citadel on 3 sides. In the west, a trio of wedge-shaped Acclamator-class assault cruisers hung in scudding clouds. North and east, the sky was in turmoil, crosshatched with ion trails, turbo-laser beams, hyphens of scarlet light streaming upward from weapons emplacements outside the Citadel's energy shield. Rising from high ground at the end of the peninsula, the tiered fastness was reminiscent of the command towers of the Trade Federation core ships, and indeed had been the inspiration for them. Somewhere inside, trapped by Republic forces, were the Trade Federation elite. With his homeworld threatened, and the purse worlds of Deco and Koru Neimoidia devastated, Viceroy Gunray would have been wiser to retreat to the Outer Rim, as other members of the Separatist Council were thought to be doing. But rational thinking had never been a Neimoidian strong suit, especially when possessions remained on Cato Neimoidia the Viceroy apparently couldn't live without. Backed by a battle group of Trade Federation warships, he had slipped onto Cato Neimoidia, intent on looting the Citadel before it fell. But Republic forces had been lying in wait, eager to capture him alive and bring him to justice, 13 years late in the judgment of many. Cato Neimoidia was as close to Coruscant as Obi-Wan and Anakin had been in almost 4 standard months, and with the last remaining Separatist strongholds now cleared from the core and colonies, they expected to be back in the Outer Rim by week's end. Obi-Wan heard movement on the far side of the irrigation canal. An instant later, 4 clone troopers crept from the tree line on the opposite bank to take up firing positions amid the water-smoothed rocks that lined the ditch. Far behind them, a crashed gunship was burning. Protruding from the canopy, the lat's blunt tail was stenciled with the 8-rayed battle standard of the Galactic Republic. A gunboat glided into view from downstream, maneuvering to where the Jedi were waiting. Standing in the bow, a clone commander named Cody waved hand signals to the troopers on shore and to others in the gunboat, who immediately fanned out to create a safe perimeter. A few nimble leaps brought Cody face to face with Obi-Wan and Anakin.
"Sirs, I have the latest from Airborne Command."
"Show us," Anakin said. Cody dropped to one knee, his right hand activating a device built into his left wrist gauntlet. A cone of blue light emanated from the device, and a hologram of Task Force Commander Dodonna resolved.
"Generals Kenobi and Skywalker. Provincial Recon Unit reports that Viceroy Gunray and his entourage are making their way to the north side of the redoubt. Our forces have been hammering at the shield from above and from points along the shore, but the shield generator is in a hardened site and difficult to get at. Gunships are taking heavy fire from turbo-laser cannons in the lower ramparts. If your team is still committed to taking Gunray alive, you're going to have to skirt those defenses and find an alternative way into the palace. At this point, we cannot reinforce. Repeat, cannot reinforce."
Obi-Wan looked at Cody when the hologram had faded. "Suggestions, Commander." Cody made an adjustment to the wrist projector, and a 3D schematic of the redoubt formed in midair.
"Assuming that Gunray's fortress is similar to what we found on Deco and Koru, the underground levels will contain fungus farms and processing and shipment areas. There will be access from the shipping areas into the mid-level grub hatcheries, and from the hatcheries we'll be able to infiltrate the upper reaches."
"I agree that we can probably reach the upper levels, Commander," Obi-Wan said. "But how do you propose we reach the fungus farms to begin with?" Cody stood to his full height and pointed toward the orchards.
"We go in with the harvesters."
Despite their 2 pairs of powerful legs and the saw-toothed pincers that extended from their lower mandibles, the broad-bodied harvesters were single-minded creatures, complacent except when threatened directly. From their flat heads sprouted looping antennae, which served not only as feelers, but also as organs of communication, by means of powerful pheromones. Each beetle was capable of carrying 5 times its considerable weight in foliage and branches. Similar to the Neimoidians who had domesticated them, their society was hierarchical and included laborers, harvesters, soldiers, and breeders, all of whom served a distant queen that rewarded effort with food. Obi-Wan, Anakin, and the commandos who made up Squad 7 had to run to keep up with the beetles as they hurried their fresh-picked loads from the orchard to the cave-like entrance to a natural mound at the base of the redoubt. The beetles' carapaces afforded them cover from surveillance sorties by battle droid staff patrols. More important, the harvesters knew safe routes through mined stretches of cleared ground that separated the trees from the fortress itself. The beetles' frequent habit of lowering their heads to exchange information with hive mates moving in the opposite direction demanded that the Jedi and troopers keep between the harvesters' rear legs. Hunched over, Obi-Wan ran with his lightsaber in hand, but deactivated. As the shielded royal residence came into view, a certain uneasiness seemed to take hold of the creatures, disrupting the ordered nature of their columns. In response to the crisis, soldier beetles were joining the procession, quick to shepherd nervous strays back into line. Anakin's greater height required him to remain farther back, almost directly under the beetle's pug tail. To Obi-Wan's right ran Cody, with his teammates trailing behind and flanking him. Soldier beetles or no, discipline was breaking down fast. A harvester, providing cover for one of the commandos, veered from the column before it could be guided back into line. Obi-Wan felt a ripple in the force an instant before the harvester's right foreleg tripped a landmine. A potent explosion fountained from the rocky ground, blowing away half the creature's foreleg. The commando threw himself to one side, rolling out from under a trio of pounding legs, only to have to bob and weave as the harvester began to run in frantic circles, seemingly determined to trample the commando underfoot. The harvester's distress was having an impact on the rest of the beetles. While most were pressed tightly together, others were suddenly scurrying away from the main column, sending the soldier beetles to high alert. Tripping 2 mines in succession.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?